Sometimes when you anticipate a movie, expectations are never met. Other times you can have no expectations and be pleasantly surprised. When it comes to Kisaragi Station, I enjoyed the trailer, but since J-horror hasn't been that great lately, I had zero expectations for this film. The movie must have known this, because 80 minutes later, I was quite surprised. This was a fun film. Hi, I'm the Artie Dance from We Love Asian Horror at Asian Film Fans, and I'm going to tell you why I think you should watch this movie. Aruna is a young woman studying folklore at university. She wants to learn more about the mysterious urban legend of Kisaragi Station and meets up with a woman called Junko who survived an incident decades prior. Junko retells the story of what happened, how she took the late train and arrived at Kisaragi Station, a station located in a seemingly abandoned village with 5 strangers, 3 hoodlums, a businessman, and a schoolgirl. She tells her about the beating taikos and a strange festival in the distance, about how bodies become infected, about how they sacrificed each other, and the strange inhabitants of this mysterious parallel world. Curiosity gets the better of Aruna. What better way to write about the folklore in her thesis than to experience it for herself? And that's exactly what she does. Following the pattern to unlock the gate to the parallel world, Aruna wakes up on the train as it arrives at Kisaragi Station, complete with a very familiar cast of characters and scenarios. Folklore movies. They've been a hot topic for J-horror lately, with movies like Howling Village and Suicide Forest Village. Personally, I thought they were both rather naff, but I did like this film. As you may know, the story told here is based on a series of spooky messages written on the 2chan message board back in 2004, and has since made its way into pop culture. This movie respects that simple story and builds upon it. Thus, if you're aware of the story, the movie should make a lot of sense. In fact, one of the most fun things about this film is the time frame. This movie feels very much like it should or could have been made back in the early noughties. The story behind the horror here is simple. The aim is to create atmosphere, not to confuse you with silly lore. Personally, I felt a very strong video game vibe with this film, and that has to do with 2 things. The first was that the film feels a little bit like Forbidden Siren. I'm not really sure why I get this vibe from the movie though, as they're really different, and there is a movie already about that game simply called Siren. But there is something about the village setting, the beating drums which are similar to the siren, and the ghostly inhabitants which seem to take more than a little bit of effort to defeat. The second thing that really connects this movie to video games is the first person perspective section. When Junko is retelling the story to Aruna, it's all presented from her viewpoint. Thus, we get an interesting use of camera angles and a wide focal length, which coupled with the visual effects on display that saturate some colour and mute others, give off a very stylistic and stylish feel. And then to top that off, the CGI used here is very much stuck in the early noughties. There is no attempt here to create any realistic computer graphics in the film. It's all very obvious that this is 2004 we're looking at here in the flashbacks, the PlayStation 2 era essentially. From the veins taking over the bodies, to the explosions, the effect in the house at the end on the walls, and the huge eyeball. It all looks very much like it belongs back in that time frame, and the movie does not make any apology about it. Thus, if you're looking to critique the visual effects, you're looking at the wrong film. They're a deliberate style and choice from the filmmaker. But what I really loved about the film was just how simple it was. There is one story arc to follow and nothing else. So the movie demands your full attention at all times. Unlike the Howling Village and its ilk, there's no need to have any assumed knowledge about Kisaragi Station's urban legend. The movie explains it as Junko is retelling her story and then relives it via Aruna to ensure the audience understands what this film and the legend is about. The ending might raise some more questions, and I never said that the movie world was intricately thought out. There are definite plot holes. Some are big enough to drive a truck through them, but that's really part of the fun of this movie. You get to fill in some of the blanks that the movie doesn't answer. And that could also lead to some frustration. The plot holes here are easy to forgive at the start of Aruna's journey into the parallel world, but as she nears the end of her trip, they really start to stick out like a sore thumb. Without going into spoiler territory, part of what I really wanted to know, and I assume the creator of the urban legend never thought ahead to answer, was what all the other characters were doing there. My assumption is they all stumbled in the world just like Junko originally did. but the movie never confirms or denies it. Just assume whatever you want to think and move on. If you're here for a J-horror scarefest, you're going to be disappointed. As mentioned, this movie feels like a production that could have been made 20 years ago and it would have been well received. The horror here is very mild, and that's due to the effects. The situation isn't really that creepy either. It's more interesting and will leave you curious to know more, but one thing it won't do is scare you. I really enjoyed this. At only 80 minutes long, it feels more like a snack than a full-length feature film, and the black comedy towards the end does feel a little odd, but it's handled well enough and never dwelled on. Using my patent-pending ghost rating, which stands for great horror or stupid trash, this movie scores 3 ghosts. If I gave half rating ghosts, this would be 3.5, as it's definitely better than good, but not quite great. If you've seen it though, what did you think of it? Thank you for watching this video. Please press like if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more horror movie trailers, news and reviews just like this.